The mission would be Vietnam. Just 10 days after SEAL Team 1 was formed, Dave Del Giudice and one of his officers, John Stockholm, were on their way to Southeast Asia, where guerrilla warfare was already widespread. Saigon's military was no match for the communist Viet Cong, and the Kennedy administration was concerned that the VC would soon vanquish America's ally in the South. The first SEALs in Vietnam did not fight, they advised. Although the teams arrived in 1962, they would not operate in combat missions in Vietnam until 1966. Instead, they trained their South Vietnamese counterparts for CIA-planned missions into North Vietnam. The early 60s found the SEALs and CIA as partners in formulating covert operations against the Communist North. The CIA picked the targets, and the SEALs worked out the military tactics. In addition to working with the CIA on intelligence, the SEALs collaborated with technological experts. In 1964, American scientists began working on a secret weapon for the SEALs. The extraordinary new device, a miniature nuclear bomb. Known as backpack nukes, these weapons were built as an alternative to the massively destructive nuclear weapons in the U.S. arsenal. These little nukes were called B-54 Special Atomic Demolition Munitions, or SADMs. A handful of SEALs trained to parachute in with a 58-pound device, infiltrate behind enemy lines, and have the capability of annihilating an entire battlefield. A pair of swimmers could also insert into an enemy-held area, plant the bomb, and swim back out. Despite their size, some of these nuclear weapons were more powerful than the one dropped on Hiroshima. Other than in testing, the SADM was never detonated during the 25 years it was in the military's arsenal. Some team members interviewed to train with the device were uncomfortable working with its potential devastation, saying they'd rather go back to Vietnam. Vietnam, 1966. It would be here and now that the SEALs would establish their reputation as true combat warriors. The North Vietnamese were successfully building an insurgency in the South. At the same time, the CIA realized there was little hope of creating meaningful resistance in the North. A detachment of SEALs were sent in to take direct action against Viet Cong guerrillas who had infiltrated the South. Operationally, the SEALs worked almost autonomously. They would gather their own intel and plan their own counterinsurgency missions. They also chose their own equipment.
It changed from being this guy in the water with fins on and a face mask and a life jacket and a K-bar to a guy with an AR-15, M16, machine guns going in and going directly against the enemy.
The first SEALs in combat wore Marine Corps green uniforms and camouflage uniforms when they could get them. And a lot of the later SEALs wore camouflage tops and Levi's, more comfortable. They also wore pantyhose, by the way, keep the leeches off of you when you're going through the canals.
These men are members of one of the most unique military organizations in history. Behind these green faces are men who have accepted the challenge of some of the most daring assignments given to American fighting men. These are the Navy's SEALs.
The men with green faces was a term that came out at the start of Vietnam, because we used to use this camouflage makeup on our faces and everything, and a lot of it was green and black, and it used to scare the living daylights out of the Vietnamese to have you pop up and wake some guy up in his hooch and be looking at him. It almost put him in shock.
Of course, back then everybody knew that that stuff didn't work worth a damn. It'd wash off after you sweated so much in the jungles. It would be gone. You'd be the guys with the white faces, or the dark brown tan faces, you know.
We started out with the simple missions just to kind of get used to the terrain and acclimate, you know, the weather there and the bugs and the creepy crawlies and the caimans. God, these caimans, you know, saltwater alligators. They come out of nowhere.
I was put in charge of a 14-man SEAL platoon on the edge of the Rungsat Special Zone, which controlled the seaborne approaches to Saigon from the South China Sea. We had rules of engagement, but there was nothing, I recall, no restriction whatsoever. In fact, it was a playground. My SEAL platoon, we had the weapons we needed. We had helicopters to insert us, boats to insert us and extract us, helicopters to shoot for us if we got in trouble, intelligence assets, and basically it was, okay, Lieutenant Woolard, here's the Rungsat, stop these guys from mining it, just go out and do it.
The name Rungsat translates as Killer Swamp, and in 1966, it was a dangerous VC stronghold located deep in South Vietnam. Yet the enemy's strength was hidden in the shadows of the jungle.